I'm Chris Williams from Cyclone Fanatic and a proud Iowa State graduate from the class of 2007. No one shows up like Iowa State fans. And Cyclones support Cyclones on and off the field. Your gift can provide scholarships to students, fund groundbreaking research. We could even drum up opportunities for the marching band. Visit MoveWhatMatters.com to learn how you can make an impact today.
Cyclone Nation, what better way to kick off the 2025 college football season than cheering on your Cyclones in the Aer Lingus College Football Classic in Dublin, Ireland? Whether it's a quick trip to Dublin for the game, a multi-city adventure throughout the Irish countryside, or premium game day hospitality, there is a package for you. Visit cyclones2ireland.com for information on official travel and hospitality packages. That's Cyclones, the number 2, Ireland.com.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've
Day has
come to
Jeff.
be with you again. Well, welcome to the final edition of Kickin' It, at least in this current iteration. You know what? If we do it again, it needs to be Kicking It.
Sure.
Dump the apostrophe. Can't do it. The entire run of Kickin' It has been brought to you by Kelderman Manufacturing, which we appreciate Jeff Kelderman for, as always, tolerating our stuff for as long as he has tolerated our stuff. You know what? Actually, that's what it is. Kelderman's finally sick of it, and he finally said, you know what? Can't handle these yahoos anymore. One of them has to go. That's not the case. Jeff Kelderman at Kelderman.com. Reach out if you need to get anything that is that you need that's kind of custom, that's more you. Kelderman Manufacturing. Yeah, this is our last one, and the white whale. I feel like this is
We got him.
This is a years-long pursuit of
Also, I
the...
don't think this is the viewer's white whale by any means, but this was certainly, like, the three of us. This was our white whale.
Yes, this is the Kickin' It white whale. As you could see in the description of this show, because this is 2025, and this is not a teaser for anything now that you've clicked on it, we got Jerome Tang to sit down for an interview.
The real
actual Jerome Tang. So Grant, can you run us through how this happened? And then we'll get to all the kind of the preamble stuff, and then we'll get to actual talking with Kansas State's head coach.
I thought I was getting catfished at first. So I tweeted at a few guys and some bigger, higher profile people, and they didn't respond. I was like, yeah, I'll shoot a tweet at Tang, whatever. Because sometimes he's a little active on the Twitterverse. He didn't respond, but our friend of the program, who we've had on a couple times, Tim Fitzgerald, who writes for Go Power Cat, Kansas State's 247 affiliate, texts me and goes, hey, if you want me to ask Tang to see if he wants to come on your show, like, I'll ask him. I was like, hell yeah, Tim, let's do it. So he sent Tang a text, and Tang was like, yeah, sure. And I reached back out to Tim, and I was like, okay, like when? And he's like, well, he's busy now. So like end of June, early July might work better for him. And he goes, here's his number. Just text him. Okay. So I texted him. No response. A week or so goes by. I shot him a text again. I was like, hey, coach, like, I understand. Like, you're probably really busy. Like, if you don't have time to do this, I understand. You know, Tim Fitzgerald told us that you might be interested. So I just wanted to follow back up one more time, and I'll leave you be if this is not something you're interested in. And he responded, and he goes, my assistant Bailey should be setting this up. Reach out to her. I said, okay, what's Bailey's information? Shot Bailey an email. No response from Bailey. I said, we're for sure getting catfished right now. I think Tim just gave us like his 14-year-old son's phone number, and then we got a couple teenagers like, oh, we're getting them. They think they're going to interview Coach Tang. Emailed Bailey again. Hey Bailey, want to follow back up? Coach Tang said he's interested, and Bailey got back to me. And then finally, long story short, we were like, oh, can we do it today at this time? And Bailey was like, yeah, sure. The day comes, and we're sitting here for, 15 or so minutes. I'm going back and forth with Bailey, like, hey, let me know if you have any questions getting logged in. Oh, we're trying to figure it out. Oh, question. Nothing. Like, they're not, Coach Tang's not hopping on. And then after about 15, 20 minutes, by golly.
There he is.
Bitch is right in front of us.
And I think this is like the conversation that will be had when we get to it is, I don't know. I thought it was really fun. And I think
I so badly wanted to dislike him. And like after the conversation, I was like, I have more respect for him.
yeah, you can't like you want to have, and I think this is just one of those like to me, it's sort of like the middle ground. Like the world is gray. There's no black and white. There's no good person, bad person, right situation, wrong situation, whatever. And so you can have this in your mind of like Jerome Tang's a dingus, and we played with that like throughout the year. I would say 80-20. I feel like I'm the 20% of that. But having just a playful Jerome Tang kind of, especially after the Tang Gate thing. But then you meet him and you talk to him and you go, well, it's actually kind of a nice guy. Hard to dislike. Can't put him in the bad guy category. He's a pretty nice human. So it was, I don't know. I had fun with it. And I hope the listeners will too. But we have, like I said, this is the last show, so we have a few things we got to get to before we get to Jerome Tang.
Well, and I wanted to. Obviously, I've just banged the drum. This guy's a friggin' dingus, and so I wanted to grill him on a few things and just really be a dick. But I was like, you know what? He is being gracious enough to come on here with us, and I want to represent Iowa State and Cyclone Fanatic well. And so it was a very respectful interview, one that was enjoyable, and I'm glad that I, didn't pull a jackass card, which I kind of did. Not kind of, I did when we had the Texas guy on.
Yeah.
Remember how he wrapped up that one?
That's fun. Okay, so
the stripper and the monkey.
There's no chance that anyone from Texas is listening to this show.
No.
And especially not that guy. So if you remember back, this is dear listener. So when we were doing, this would have been 2 years ago, when we had guests on from the upcoming opponent to preview the upcoming opponent, we would get, Grant has done almost all the bookings for the show, like as far as just getting a hold of somebody. Aiden has chipped in a little bit. I've done very little in that department. But it was, you'd go to like the media scrum or whoever's a credentialed media for that, and then just kind of send 5 guys an email and see who responds. Well, we get the guy from Texas, and normally we would do it on video and on StreamYard, just like this. And
well,
we're in studio.
You're thinking of the guy from Memphis, I think is where you're going.
Well, the guy from Memphis was no screen. Oh, the guy from Texas did have a video one. Yeah, but anyway,
yeah.
He comes on screen and he's fairly knowledgeable. Seems like he's kind of chipper. He's kind of ready to go. And then at the very end, you ask about the stripper and the stripper pole and the monkey.
Special teams coach. Yeah.
Special teams coach, because after the monkey bit the pet monkey of pole assassins, like that on Halloween or whatever it was. After that, I don't think they liked being asked about it. And you asked about it. And normally in any interview like that happens, even with Coach Tang, like we just talked for 5, 10, 15 minutes. For some people, it's longer than that. Like with Fitz,
yeah.
Afterwards, once the recording wraps with Fitz, I mean, I think we'd talk for like 30 minutes with Fitz. Yeah. The recording ends. This guy bounces because that's the last question. It was the second the interview was over, he was gone. So
and he went from like any kind of smile to just stoic, boom, gone. Oh, I'm gonna piss that guy off.
Apparently, don't ask about the monkey and the pole assassin. Well, that's one of the things we've learned during this run of Kicking It.
And I said, you know what? Texas is leaving the conference anyways. Who cares? I'll never see that guy again.
Yeah, and he seemed like he was also like pretty new to the Texas beat, so I don't think he was like, you know what, I'm gonna stick with Texas here. But for his problems, like you can't, if you're trying to be in the good graces of Texas, you don't want to be talking about pole assassin and then you get blackballed from the media room and boom, there goes your job. So like he was not happy about it, but from our end, it was hilarious.
Because he very much tried to like skirt around answering it when I asked him the question. So yeah,
did not do that with Coach Tang, because again, trying to be respectful. And again, by the time we got done with it, you actually he was someone you liked, but I don't know.
Well,
I did.
Speak for yourself. I don't say I like him. I've got more respect for him, but I still, he's the kind of coach, I guess after talking to him, he's the kind of coach that I could see why Kansas State fans love him. He's the kind of coach that is going to go to bat for the guys, for the fans. He gets into to the crowd after the games and dances with them. He's very bought in to Kansas State, so he is very much someone who you would want, to coach your team if success comes along with it, which this might be a big year for him. But he's absolutely someone that you look at his actions and some of the things he says, and you're just like, what is this guy? But he was not that way in the interview. It was a very good interview. Before we get to the interview, though, I think we need to get to what Jeff missed, because it's been a couple weeks. So this is again, they did not sign up for this, but they did sign up to sponsor us. So thank you to the Iowa Pork producers for sponsoring the What Did Jeff Miss in social media this week. Don't be a dork. Eat your pork. Did you have any pork over the 4th of July, Jeff?
No, I didn't have any pork. It was while I was in California. It was one of.
Where were you at in California?
Fallbrook, which is halfway between, if you draw a line between LA and San Diego and then go inland about 20 miles, it's there. And it's one of our college teammates, Thad Satchery. He was only there for a couple years and transferred out to Butler. His wife, is Mexican, and they had a mariachi band, which was bomb, absolutely fire at the wedding, and 2, authentic Mexican food at the wedding, and they had some pork carnitas tacos. I doubt that it was Iowa Pork Producers Association, because it was Fallbrook, California. Like, that's just logistics of getting it from Iowa all the way to Southern California. Probably not, but man, authentic carnitas tacos with homemade tortillas. Everything is just like chopped up cilantro, just like almost a creamy guacamole. I mean, it was
hell yeah,
terrific. That was
I would have poured up those toilets the next day.
A+ wedding food, mariachi band for the cocktail hour, and authentic carnitas tacos. Oh, it was just terrific.
Hell yeah. I had about 9 hot dogs over the course of 4 days.
Nice.
Yeah, and hot dog meat sweats are the worst. So I started getting some hot dog meat sweats.
I found at Hy-Vee, there is some uncured, no chemical added, just straight up pork sausage. And you only get 4 of them per pack, so it's not like you're trying to eat 12 of them. They're terrific, and it's just a salt. I think it's like when you're looking at the hot dog section, it's like it's off to the side. But man, it is
no free ads.
No free ads, but it is a quality pork dog. Quality pork dog.
All right, so let's see what Jeff missed in social media this week. So I'm gonna start with the Kelly Ford one first, Aiden. So I don't know if you saw this. So Kelly Ford, Iowa State has the number 1 most watchable home schedule in the nation, meaning
fun.
So basically the quality of teams that are coming to Ames, the quality of games that there should be, Iowa State's number 1. So I don't know if you saw that or not, but pretty cool.
So for those that are audio only, it's home watchability scores, which is weighted score, projected quality, average K-Ford ratings, which basically K-Ford ratings is like a power rankings. It's like the Ken Pom of college football, and competitiveness. Well, FPI is a little janky. And then the spread, meaning that it's going to be a close game, basically projected as of this point. So a close game against a good opponent. That's more or less the score, and trying to give an empirical number. Iowa State is at 8.05, and then there's a pretty good jump between Iowa State and the next, which is Oklahoma, at 7.93, Notre Dame at 7.92, and then South Carolina, Oregon, Baylor, Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, LSU, Ole Miss, Miami, Auburn, Arkansas, Clemson. So it is a who's who up there. And there are a few Big 12 teams. So there's Iowa State, Baylor, TCU that are kind of Big 12 representatives that are towards the top. Utah's down there at number 17. But that's kind of cool. That's a fun thing. Kent State, boring ass schedule, just dog ass. 136 out of 136. Is that because they're terrible, or like they're just going to get rolled every time? Like the competitiveness part.
Look at all those teams aside from Toledo. Really, the bottom 4 are all kind of. I guess I wouldn't say. What is that? What's 133? Is that
New Mexico State? That's Ball State's 133. UMass 134. Mexico State's 135. Kent State 136. I think Kent State went winless last year.
Yes, I mean, like those bottom 4 teams are just dog shit. So
again, the Toledo's 132. I wonder if it's just because I think they were upper middle of that. We got the Delaware Blue Hens there at 127. That's fun.
Yeah, so I guess kind of what I'm getting from this is that Iowa State's got a great home slate. So if you haven't bought your season tickets, get on them. It's going to be a fun season. This team should be, I'm going to go ahead and say it, this team's going to be better than last year. They may not get to 11 wins, but I think this team's going to be better than last year because last year we were playing, the 7th, 8th, 9th string linebackers. And so, we heard all offseason how we're going to see a 4-down lineman. And I think because Caleb Bacon and Caleb Rosina got hurt, we didn't really see that because I think those two guys will have their hand in the dirt a little bit. So I'll be curious to see if we bust that out in Dublin. We take on the Wildcats. So that's the first thing that Jeff missed. What do you think of that? Kind of interesting.
That was a really good one. That is the right type of energy for this. Okay. Just like the AI guy with the girlfriend, and this is the right type of energy. That's good.
Yep. This next one you may not care about, but my next door neighbor, it's her 90th birthday today on 7/7.
Happy birthday.
Kind of yep. Her name is Marlene.
Happy birthday, Marlene.
Wonderful woman. I'm not sure if Aiden, can you play the video or no?
Wait, Grandma, how old are you? How old do you think you are?
60.
Okay, do you want to know the real answer?
I can't remember.
Do you want to know how old you really are?
How old am I?
90.
How old?
90.
Did you say 90?
I did.
That's how old I am?
That's how old you are.
Well, I look pretty good for 90.
That's true, you do.
Period.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
That's a video I saw going around, and so I thought, this is appropriate to play on Marlene's birthday because she's also 90 today. So I thought that was pretty appropriate.
I look pretty good for 90.
Did you say 90?
I look pretty good for 90.
She did. I mean, she did look good for 90.
Hey, good on you, man.
Yep. So that's what Jeff missed in the last 2 weeks in social media. I'm sure some other things too, but we'll just kind of keep it to those.
That's fun. The watchability rankings. I wonder too. I doubt that you can. I mean, not doubt. I imagine on the K Ford rankings and like the spread thing. If you look at all of Iowa State's games last year, there were so many close wins. The cardiac clones. You got the UCF game. You have the Iowa game. You got Miami. Like, there's all these really close comeback wins.
I mean, Rocco led 4 game-winning drives.
Yeah, and so I imagine there's some element of that where it's a fun game to watch. Like, if you're not sure and you're just flipping around and there's a game that's 27-24 and the team that has 24 has the ball with 40 seconds left, you go, I'll stay here, and just take that times the whole season. You get teams like Iowa that are coming to town, and you get teams that are Arizona State, like the big names that Iowa State has in their schedule are mostly at home. So I don't know. That's going to be fun. And you're talking about the defense. It's hard to say better, like overall as a team, just because they did get to 11 wins last year, which has literally never happened. And so I think holding that as a bar and saying if they don't get to 11 wins, then it's a failed season. Like, if someone has that in their head, like, that's a pretty high standard. And I think I've used this before, and probably on here, but maybe not, where talking about goal setting. And to me, it's a way of still being an achiever without being disappointed with the result of not getting it. And so the way that, and it's actually from Colin Klein, so appropriate for a Kansas State kind of featured episode, which is, he would describe it as there's like 3 tiers of goals, and it's all in the same line. So kind of tier number 1 is, if everything goes right and I get lucky, what's the thing that can happen? And so for him, it was to win the Heisman Trophy. And if everything goes right, I stay healthy, I get lucky, I win the Heisman Trophy. The next thing is, if everything goes right and I control what I can control, then I'm going to be an All-American. So Heisman Trophy is 1, All-American's number 2, and then number 3 would be, if I control what I can control, even if I get bad breaks, I'm going to be all Big 12. And so you kind of stack those up, and because a lot of times with goal setting, if you go, yes, no, I'm going to be a Heisman Trophy winner or bust. Well, let's say that, in this way, like the Travis Hunter of the world, like, dude plays 105 snaps. He has this great marketing campaign with Deion Sanders as head coach, and you are Cam Ward, and if you're a guy who could have / should have won the Heisman Trophy, depending on who you ask. If you don't win it, then you're All-American, record-setting, first pick in the NFL draft. All of that becomes a failure because you didn't win the Heisman Trophy, and you can't appreciate the good things that you did get. I say all this to say, like, with Iowa State's season, to me, if they control what they can control and they get lucky, north of 11 wins is possible. If they can do everything they can and you get average luck, ball bounces off an upright and it doesn't go in and it goes out and you lose that game or whatever. Honestly, like 9 to 10 wins is still what I would consider, if they do with reasonable luck, 9 to 10 wins is still possible. And the lowest tier of what would be successful, I think, is like 8 or 9 wins if you get unlucky. Like if there are some bad injuries, there's some bad breaks, there's something that happens that you don't like, that there's that goes against everything. Like what happened with Iowa State last year, you have 19 linebackers that get hurt. Then it feels like 8 or 9 is sort of what, like a 9-win season. If Iowa State goes 9 and whatever with the postseason, that's a successful year. Like I wouldn't be like really mad that happened. So I think that to me feels like if everything goes right and you get lucky, it's 11 or up. 9, 10 is sort of where it feels like if they do what they can, if they control what they can control and they get average luck, then that's 9 to 10. 8 to 9 becomes if you get bad luck, but you do everything. Anything below that feels like what you would consider a disappointing season. Then if it's 6 or 7, it's like coming off of the 2020 year when they went 7 and 6 with Brock and Brees and all those, like that year. That feels like what would be a disappointment is you get to 6, 7 wins with the talent that's there and the schedule that they have in front of them. To me, that feels like where you can start considering a disappointment. But if they go 10 and 2 or whatever, 10 and whatever, don't be mad that it's one win less than what they had last year. So to me, that feels like the way of looking at the season is sort of that tiered goal approach. And like I said, that's how I have now set my goals that way personally. So if you listener want to kind of shake up how you do it, makes it so you don't feel terrible when something good happens, because it's not what the best thing that you could get happens. So
yeah, and
anyway,
I agree with what you're saying there, and I saw the line come out that Iowa State's projected win total, the line is set at 7.5. I would hammer the over, because I think a lot of people are looking at Iowa State and they see, oh, they lost 2,000-yard receivers, they're not going to be able to replace them. The 2 transfers that Iowa State brought in are going to be good. Xavier Townsend might be one of the better athletes that we've seen in a Cyclone uniform in a long time. And Chase Sowell he's your typical Hakeem Butler, maybe a little taller and thinner than Xavier Hutchinson, but then Jaden Higgins, he's your tall, wiry burner. So that plus the running back room last year was a little dinged up. So were the tight ends, and so like you look at it's so impressive to me how well Iowa State did last year because of how dinged up they were, really, to a lot of the major positions. Like I said, running back, tight end. And then on the defensive side, obviously we talked about linebackers. And then I think people are writing off Iowa State maybe not thinking, oh, yeah, this last year is a fluke, because they lose Porter, Verdon, Freeler. But you got to remember that Iowa State also played like 105 guys last year. So like J-Mo Patton, he played quite a bit. Marcus Neal was a true freshman last year.
Drew Surgis was hurt. And he didn't play. And he played as a true freshman, I think, or redshirt freshman. Was really good as a freshman, so he'll probably be back there as well too. And then Jontez Williams. I mean, he's the All Big 12 team came out today as well too. Aiden, I'm not sure if you have a graphic for that. The All Big 12 team came out today too. So Jontez Williams was on that, as well as Dom Orange. So Dom knows what kind of not pressure he's under, but kind of the expectations that he has too. So I'm I don't want to say cautiously optimistic. I'm drunk on the optimism right now. Again, to say 11 wins might be a stretch because that has never happened before, but I would not be surprised if they get to 10 wins again this year. Yeah, and I think there is, we talk about reversion to the mean. There's going to be some times. I mean, Iowa State won so many close games. So here's the preseason All Big 12 defensive team.
And so all Orange, three Iowa State guys are on defense. Dom
Orange, Jeremiah Cooper, and Jontez Williams. Was Fafita the quarterback on the? So offense. Levitt, yeah. Sam Levitt. That makes sense. So Sam Levitt at Arizona. He was Arizona State's quarterback. He's going to be the focus of the offense. And
Jordan Tyson's back.
Jordan Tyson is back, redshirt junior. So
he's only a junior. Oh God.
So I feel like there's a couple guys that have the chance to be on there. I think especially at tight end.
Yeah.
I think if Ben Bramer's healthy all year, I think Ben Bramer is probably potentially in that. I think fullback, H-back, Tyler Moore is, I feel like, primed for a good year. Also,
This is bulletin board material right here. No Iowa State guys on
and I think
conference.
really, so you look at, to me, that's, I guess I haven't looked too much across the board with the quarterbacks, but I feel like it's Rocco, Fafita, and Levitt would be kind of your
maybe Martin or who's the guy in Kansas State? I'm blanking.
Avery Johnson.
Avery Johnson. Yeah.
Yep. So it feels like that's kind of your horse
Sawyer
race
Robertson
at the top.
Baylor.
Yeah, I mean, he came on towards the end of the year, which I still think Sawyer Robertson is the absolute quintessential name for a quarterback at Baylor.
He's Huckleberry Finn's best friend.
But no, it feels like this team has, because this is the last time we'll be able to kind of broadcast about it over the course of this football season. But it feels like this team has the potential to be in one, like I said, in that upper echelon. But reversion to the mean, there were 4 game-winning drives that if a drop pass doesn't happen, or a drop pass happens, or a missed block, or incompletion, or a penalty, missed field goal, yeah, if Conrarity doesn't bang in a 54-yarder at Kinnick that game, you lose that game. So like, there's so many things that happened which are part of luck that, like, it's not,
luck and preparation.
Luck and preparation, yes, but like, if a kicker makes 90% of their field goals, you kick 10 field goals, you miss one of them. You're lucky that it's not the one that you miss. Just like free throws. Like, even Steph Curry misses free throws, and every once in a while it happens. So there are times when it's going to happen, but I feel like this team is going to be good enough and balanced enough that the one break that they don't get, that they did get last year, can be covered up by the fact that they're going to have so much more depth on the defensive side, that when you have a defense that is as deep as they will be, and a quarterback like Rocco, those two things paired together give you a chance in every game. And if both are hitting, you're going to kill a team. If one is hitting, you're going to be in that game and have a chance to win. If both are missing, you're still going to be in a chance, but you might lose that game. So that is, to me, that's what kind of makes this team different than last year, is they're much more balanced across the board, where they can win a game. I mean, hopefully they stay healthy in the same way that we expect them to, and they don't, or at least they don't get as hurt as they did last year, where you can win a game 12-9, because the defense will be capable of doing it, and Rocco's going to be good enough at not turning the ball over in the way that he has been. So that, to me, yes, this team has a very high ceiling, but that's, like I said, the kind of the tiers of goals, where to me, 11 or up is everything goes right. 10-ish feels like you do what you can, you control what you can control. 8-ish feels like a medium, a level of success where even if you get bad luck, you still get there. Anything less than that feels like that's where you'd put the failure point. So the line being 7.5, to me, that feels like I would be fairly confident with taking the over.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say here too before we dive into our interview with the Jerome Tang is that I think, like, for the last 5 years, Iowa State's defense was top 3 or 4 in rush, and they were number 1 a couple of the years in rush defense. And last year they dropped down to bottom 3 in the league.
And that's 100% due to linebacker depth.
Exactly. So like I anticipate, for as well as the defense did play, I mean, everyone could run on Iowa State last year. Mm-hmm. So but again, it's because the linebackers were out, and that's no disrespect to the linebackers who came in there. They were doing their best, and they got better as the year went on. But the 9th string guy is not
and really part of it, even, you look at the what's the kid's name? 30, was it 43, 34?
Willich?
Nope. He was, oh my God, total
McLaughlin.
brain fart. Nope. The guy who came in, Ryland Barnes. Jesus.
Oh, Ryland Barnes. Yeah.
So you look at a guy like Ryland Barnes. Ryland Barnes is a serviceable enough linebacker if he gets rest and the ability, when his head's spinning, to take a drive or two off, to have a GA or a coach or an experienced veteran standing there next to him and saying, hey, you see when that tight end moves, or here's this, you watch the guard, here's this going to be, let's make adjustments and get your head to settle back on. When you have not enough depth, Ryland Barnes has to take every snap. He just has to be out there. So you can't make adjustments, you can't settle down, you can't take a breather and actually recover so you can be at full speed. So a lot of it, I mean, depth became a problem for the running game, and just schematically, they ask a lot, especially of their outside linebackers, to be able to make tackles. And that's where they were even weaker going into the season, because you had you're down 2 guys with a back injury and a knee injury with Willock and McLaughlin before the year even starts. So you're already on outside linebacker number 3 before you even start the season. Then you get more injuries and more injuries. You're playing outside linebacker number 5. And because they rely on that's why Mike Rose was so good. He had so many tackles because he played that position where you're covering space and you're fitting on the edge. You're trying to get Dom Orange to cause a pile, create a bounce by the running back, and then tackle it when it bounces for a loss. Well, if your linebacker doesn't know where he's supposed to be, well, all of a sudden Cam Scadaboo runs for 6,000 yards. Like, that's where that comes from.
He's so good.
He's so good. I'm so excited to watch him in the league. Just, he's fun.
Yeah. You got anything else before we dive into the interview here?
No.
This is going to be brought to us by Aer Lingus. Don't be a dingus. Book with Aer Lingus.
So
and it's very, very
on
appropriate.
point.
It is. Don't be a dingus. Emphasis on the dingus. And obviously, Iowa State's playing Kansas State over in the Dublin, so it's very appropriate that we welcome in Jerome Tang for this interview. So, without further ado, the white whale and the grand finale of Kickin' It, we bring you Coach Jerome Tang.
And now we're going to welcome in an extremely special guest for the program. He's heading into his 4th season at an opposing Big 12 institution from Iowa State here. He's, after 19 years at Baylor, getting himself a natty, getting one of his hands a little bit heavier, holding that championship ring. We got Kansas State head coach Jerome Tang. Coach Tang, thank you for coming on the show with us. We're excited to have you here. And friend of the program, Tim Fitzgerald, was able to kind of help convince you that this was a good idea. And we appreciate that.
Man, anything for Tim. And no, thank you guys for having me on.
I kind of wanted to start because we've had, so Rob Stone, who's the Big Noon Kickoff guy for Fox. We've had Seth Greenberg on. We've had a lot of guys that cover Iowa State, but we haven't had somebody who's coached against Iowa State. For the sake of just right away, there's a couple teams that I'm interested in because they're so unique in how they do their basketball scheme. What's it like playing against, first, Iowa State? Then if you go, oh man, that's a tough match. Then you go Bill Self, and you have the national runners-up in Houston, and you've got the rest of this list of the Big 12. If you look at Iowa State and you're playing against Iowa State, what are the things that come to mind that you have to prepare for roster independent? This last year being separate, these guys you have to target. But what's it like playing against Iowa State kind of right away?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. But man, I absolutely love playing at Iowa State. One of my favorite places, right? Like the Hilton magic is real. And, I've been on both ends of it, as an assistant at Baylor and here at K-State. And always had a ton of respect for the fans because your fans don't just cheer when the team does something good. They have like an ability to know when the team needs a lift, and they cheer, to get them going. And so I've always thought that was really, really cool. And now with TJ and the no middle defense that they play and how aggressive they are in ball screens, and there's coming out of timeouts, they're going to throw some wrinkle at you defensively, whether it's trap the first pass or, switch how they guard the ball screen coverage, and then the physicality and then Lipsy, man, how physical he is on the ball. I know we're not, like you said, independent of roster, but you got to talk about that young fella, man. Like, he's not just the point guard on offense, he's the point of attack on defense. And I mean, he sets the tone. And so, yeah, just a very, very tough environment to play in, very tough team to prepare for, and to go against. TJ does a great job, and he always brings in like high level players who play the game the right way. And then, like you said, then you just start checking the boxes going down, right? You got, Kelvin Sampson, Bill Self, and Scott Drew, and Tommy Lloyd and Grant McCaslin. And it doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop.
So obviously, you coached under Coach Drew for 19 years at Baylor, and your first year at Kansas State, you went to Elite Eight. I wanted to ask you, coach under Coach Drew, how do you feel like he shaped you as a coach and as a man? 19 years under, working with one person that's a long time.
Yeah, no, our wives tease us and say we're an old married couple, and But coach didn't like make it like working under. It was us living life together, and he's more than just coach. Like he's like a brother to me, and coach allowed us to coach everybody on staff to coach. And he wanted us to be the best version of ourselves, and he just such a humility about him to let people be the best versions of themselves, and never taking credit for anything, and always taking the blame when things went wrong. And man, he just set this great example of what you wanted it to look like. And so every day we just all wanted to do the very best to help him be the best, and because he was such a great leader. And I mean, it's you just look at his coaching tree, right? You got Grant McCaslin at Texas Tech, and John Jacobs at FAU, and Paul Mills at Wichita State after his run at ORU, and then Matt Driscoll, who 16 years at North Florida, and now I'm blessed to have him on my staff, is just on and on, like his brother Bryce, and so obviously all this goes back to Homer, right? You got to tip your cap to Homer and the job he did of raising his sons and teaching them to be coaches and setting a great example for them, and they've set a great example for us.
Yeah, and yeah, you mentioned Papa Drew, so shout out Papa Drew. One of the things that is also interesting, and I think people always, like they have a recency bias that like because this is the way things are, this is the way things have always been. And we'll get back to Kansas State in a second, but I don't think people realize or remember what you guys walked into at Baylor, because the situation there was as bad of a basketball situation as you could possibly remember. I mean, I don't know how close it was to the program just being shut down because of what had happened. And if you don't, we're not going to get into it, but just like Google it. You guys building a national championship program from that might be one of the greatest coaching jobs in the history of college basketball. What were your expectations going in to taking that job or signing up with Coach Drew and being like, yep, Baylor's where we want to go? Like, what were your expectations in the early years of building that program to where it is?
Yeah, I've just been always one of those guys that wherever I was at, I thought it was the best place in the world. As a high school coach, I coached at a small Christian school in Cleveland, Texas, and I just thought it was the greatest place in the world, and everyone should want to be there. And so when we got to Baylor, we had air conditioning. My gym in Cleveland didn't have air conditioning.
No way in Texas?
Yeah,
oh my
just
gosh.
think about that. And I was just fired up. Like I thought it was the best place in the world, and I had the best assistant coaching job in the world. And so when I got here to K-State, I just think this is the best place in the world, and you're crazy to not want to be here. And wherever I was at, I thought we could win, and we won 4 state championships at the high school I was at, and you go to Baylor and 2 Big 12 championships and a national championship. Nobody could have convinced me that we wasn't going to win a national championship there, and that's the same way I feel about being here at K-State. Like no one can convince me that we're not going to win multiple national championships here, and so it's just, and I think Scott's very much the same way, and Coach Driscoll, that we just like we don't look at. We don't see the negatives; we see the opportunities.
And so you've signed back to back. I know the transfer portal is like it's blowing up. You've signed back to back really great transfer portal classes, as well as recruiting classes. Without giving your secret sauce, what are some things you look for? And I think Jeff might ask you a question too about maybe a guy you signed in the last class. But what are some questions? What are some things you look for when you sign someone out of the transfer portal? And do you typically go like to that guy's coach and just kind of ask, hey, what kind of man is this? Is this guy off the court?
Yeah, a lot of background work. This is the crazy. Since I've taken this job, every year they've changed the rules. They've changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wild west.
Yeah, I was going to get into that because it is.
Yeah,
it is, and it's only going to get wilder.
You hope not, but I don't see an end to it. Even with the house settlement, I don't see an end to it because there's just so many unanswered things, and so many loopholes where people can lawyers have found out they can make money suing the NCAA, and they're not going to stop. They're just until like we get something more concrete in place, an agreement between players and universities, and not just some of them. But so when the rule is changing every year, you really don't know how to build, because I want to build a program. I don't want to have a team every year, a brand new team every year. And but that's just seems what it is. And I didn't our first recruiting class here, I purposely the guys that came in, it was, well, let's get guys who have multiple years because they can't transfer again. And so at least we know we're going to have them for 2 or 3 years. Well, then they changed the rules, and then it was, okay, let's not take guys who have transferred twice because they're not going to be eligible to play. And then sure enough, they changed that rule. And, and those guys in our league that we didn't recruit, and then they got eligible, it was like, man, now we got to play against them. And so, every year it's changing, but what you got to have a certain level of talent. And then for me, it's about, having a high level of character. And now even on top of that, I've added just a high level of maturity, right? Because experience doesn't necessarily equal maturity.
Yeah.
And so I gotta find guys that, because just because we pay them now doesn't make them professionals.
It's true.
Right. And professional is not, it's your approach. Right. And so I need guys who have a more mature approach to life than, because our group last year, man, they were talented and they were great guys. I absolutely loved them. They need to be more mature in order to accomplish what we need to accomplish in 10 months. And so I figured that out, that I need a more mature group of guys or individuals who approach life just a little bit differently, and same level of talent and, obviously good people, but, just a more mature approach.
Yeah, and I think you're mentioning like not necessarily the maturity aspect specifically, but just the thing as far as with the NIL rules changing all the time. There are, from one year, you mentioned it, transfer rules, throw them out the window. Next year is what you can do as far as signing and eligibility, throw that out the window. And now they're being paid for by the universities. And I think one thing that I felt, I don't know necessarily bad is the right adjective, but I empathized with Coleman Hawkins on your team from last year, because he mentioned how much pressure he felt because that information of how much his contract is worth gets leaked. Well, and or leaked or whatever, and that number gets floated around, whether it's true or not. And you then have this, I need to live up to this standard. And also, again, recency bias. People forget these are still kids. Like, Coleman Hawkins is what, 22, 21? Like, think back to the listeners, think back when you were 21. Someone hands you this big check and also goes, hey, there's 30 million people that are counting on you to do this job, and you need to do it. Like, it's just something that I don't think people appreciate. And like, I don't know if it's just something that, how do you deal with counseling through that pressure? Because it is ratcheted up now, especially once the House settlement goes through, and now the information is through the universities, which means you could get it publicly available. And like, I don't know how you go about counseling through that, because that's not a job that I envy.
Man, there's a lot of layers to what you just said, right? Like, so I hopefully a lot of people learned things from last year. One being agents who are not as in a hurry to put out how much their clients are making because they want to get the next client, because they realize how much it impacts those young men, right? And it's not just everybody knowing supposedly how much you made. I saw this thing out there where it had Kentucky's this group coming in was going to make over $20 million, right? And I know one of the assistants on the room, he says, "Coach, it's not that." And I said, "But that's what's out there." So it's not just everybody knowing, but then everybody also being able to contact you about it through social media, right? And they can say whatever they want to.
I got death threats on Twitter, man. Like, I fumbled one time in football, and I got death threats on that thing. I cannot imagine what these kids are going through now.
And then they get it instantly. Like, as soon as the game is over, it's instant. And so there's so many layers to this of learning on how to deal with this. And I don't think Fran Fischella is going to be upset with me about saying this, but because I know him really well. And he was calling a game this past year, and one of the kids from, I believe it was Kansas, took a shot and missed it. And Fran says, man, they pay him way too much to miss that shot. And they don't even say that about NBA guys.
Yeah.
Right? Like announcers, they never talk about that stuff with NBA guys. But you know what? I mean, like, this is just new for all of us. And so hopefully we're all learning from this. I called Fran. I said, Fran, man, you can't say that. And he said, Jerome, but everybody's thinking it. I said, I know we're all thinking it, but you can't say that out loud. Like, we can't say and we agreed to disagree on that. And he does a great job, and a great job for the Big 12. And I'm happy he's there. But hopefully there's certain things we're all learning through this new change in college athletics that'll allow us to coach them better, players to interact with fans and stuff better, our fans to be, better. After us and announcers, everyone to do a little bit better and be a little better people about this.
And so, Coach, you've kind of pivoting away from NIL and all that. You had talked about Hilton Magic and being on both ends of it. One of the questions I want to ask you, I don't think I'm biased in saying that the Big 12 is the best basketball conference in America. What do you feel like? And I was going to say maybe your favorite place, but maybe like your top 3 favorite places to play at, not just, environment, but just kind of the whole atmosphere of, what the fans, the arena, kind of everything, the gameplay, who you're playing against. What are some of your top 3 places to play at in the Big 12?
And I'll interject. Bramlage is the free space on this. This is the free space on the bingo board.
Okay.
You don't have to say Bramlage.
I don't have to say Bramlage, because there was definitely, but Bramlage was one of my favorite places to play even when I was at Baylor, right? The students with the I loved that. I was like, man, how cool is that, right? And I remember when we got into the league, Texas A&M was still in the league.
Yep.
And their student section was brutal. Oh my good, poor Josh Lomers. When we they was on him from the very beginning, because he was from San Antonio. I think he had a family member that went to A&M, and they all thought he was going to go there, and he picked Baylor. And oh man, it was awesome. And those students are great. But I love obviously playing at Hilton, and that's one. Everybody has to do that one time. It's like you got to experience it. It's great. Our fans are going to like me saying this, but that school up the road, man, that place, it is. It's different. It is. And it doesn't matter who they're playing. That place is going to be packed. And I still think they pipe in noise, right? Like in the introductions, man, I think they pipe in the noise. They say they don't, but it's crazy. And, I'll just tell you this, going back to Baylor this past year and playing in the new arena that I helped design and the Foster Pavilion, that was really cool to do that. But that was just a personal experience right there. It may not mean the same to others. I've played at Arizona before. We haven't done it in the Big 12, but I've played there before. And the cool thing when we played there, Bill Walton was doing the game. And so we're at shoot around, and then Coach Drew asked him to say a few words to the team. And I don't know if you've ever been around Bill Walton, but there's few words. Yeah. 45 minutes later.
No way.
45 minutes later, he says, fellas, in the Conference of Champions, you guys just enjoy this. This is number 384 consecutive sellouts here, there. So you guys just enjoy. He basically told us, you're about to get your butt whooped tonight. So just go ahead and enjoy the game and the atmosphere, because this is Arizona and you guys are Baylor. And man, we beat the snot out those dudes. We out-rebounded them 51-19. And Mark Vidal had 19 rebounds by himself. Yeah. Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Mark Vidal was he was the guy that if I could take one guy, hated playing, I didn't play against him, but I hated my team playing against him. But he's the guy that you want on your team, just a junkyard dog.
Oh, he is. What's great is Mark. I just hired Mark as a GA for us.
Oh, nice.
K-State. Yeah, no, he's been awesome for these guys, and so.
I was interested, just now that back to the K-State part, one of the most likable teams that I can remember watching is the Marquise Noel team that you guys got to the Elite Eight. When I think it was, I don't know if it was something you called or if he did it on the floor. It was that, I think it was an alley-oop that he threw where he's 45 feet away from the basket. He's looking at you. And I don't know if he's trying to wave you off and you're trying to tell him, no, don't do something. And he just chucks one up. And I don't remember who actually put it down. Was that as much fun? Because it seems like he is that uber competitive. Michael Jordan is kind of the standard for competitiveness where like you can't play, tiddlywinks with him without him trying to get in a fight to win. Like it feels like Marquise had that kind of zest to him. Was that season as much fun to coach as it was to watch? Because, and I'll contextualize this a little bit more, because as soon as you get to the NCAA tournament, Big 12 tournament's over, and all of a sudden it's sort of like siblings on a road trip where you're like, I'm sick of you, but you know what? You're my sibling now. Go Wildcats. You're rooting for every other Big 12 team in the tournament. Right. So as soon as that happens, you flip from being this freaking guy to being like, yeah. So I don't know. That team was as much fun to coach as it was to watch.
Man, they were a ton of fun to coach and learned a lot. Marquise, just unbelievable young man. And you're right. He's super, super competitive. And as soon as I was able to grasp that he wanted to win, like his mistakes were not mistake, like when he made a mistake, it's because he was trying to win. And when I was able to grasp that as a coach and really like take my hands off of it as much and just let him play and just really just breathe confidence into him, the team took off and he did all that. Yeah, he was waving me off on a play. I wanted to run one thing, he wanted to run something else. The whole defense was looking at me, and Keontae cuts back door and he throws the lob, and Keontae turns backwards and dunk it. How about that? Like in an Elite Eight game, and I mean it was like, dude, yeah. So they just played with this great confidence and fearlessness. And it came from their hard work and just, man, love Marquise Noel. I'm actually doing his wedding. He gets married in July. And so I get to do his wedding in Kansas City. So I'm fired up about that.
That's cool. Yeah. Now, Coach, I don't know if I can ask you about specific players, but there's one guy specifically that you've signed, I think, from Bowling Green, Marcus Johnson. He's built differently. He's a tall dude, little huskier, got a really unique game. And so when I saw you guys sign him, I was like, man, I don't like that he's in the Big 12, but I do like it because I'll get to see him. Yeah. Can you talk about his game? Because it's such a unique game. He's a big dude, but he strokes it, and he had a really good game last year against someone. And I remember watching him be like, who is this guy? Yeah,
I think he had like 20-something against Michigan State.
Yep, that was the game.
And so, but he's a bucket, right? Like he can just score the thing. Like it goes in easy.
Unassumably.
Man, he flicks his wrists and it goes in. There are some guys, man, they can square up and have their shoulders and feet elbow in, the whole beef thing and shoot it and hit it right in the square and it's going to miss, right? And there's some guys who they don't even look at the goal. They just throw it up. We had a kid named TJ Maston that played for us at Baylor. Man, that dude just flipped the ball up. It went in, right? Like it didn't matter. Like, and that Marcus is like that. He just flips that thing up and he does. He's a big dude, but he's doing a great job of trimming down. He's in really good shape, cardiovascular shape, and it's just about him, just trimming down a little bit. But I'm looking forward to being able to move him around the floor and take advantage of that. And he's doing a great job here. And guys, he's just a terrific kid too.
Yeah,
just a great personality.
He's a very Jeff. If you've never seen him, when you see K-State play, he's a unique guy. You're gonna be like, who is this guy? Like, he doesn't. He's unassuming.
Is it basically just the Kansas State version of George Niang, kind of like
There we go. Maybe not as good of a passer. Like George Niang has this great feel. I dislike that kid. Oh, I loved him. But man, I hated playing against him. And man, that whole team, him, Monte Morris and Thomas, and it was a beast.
Imagine defending that team is just like where do you start? Like, do you start at Monte? Do you start at George? Do you start at Naz and the shooters?
Naz, Long, and no, it was terrible. It was I was the defensive coach too. Yeah,
you gotta go against Fred. Yeah, good luck.
It's like good luck. Go ahead. We had this. We write on the board HTM. Hope they miss.
They're a good shooting team for sure.
Man, that's
man.
You could score on them, but you couldn't stop them. And if that thing got going, that was tough.
Yes.
Now I mentioned it kind of earlier, and I'm just really curious because again, we've talked to people. We had Rich Hollenberg on, and he got to talk about what it's like to cover when you're playing against that Houston team from last year, who's returning basically everybody, which is great, just great for everybody else. But they return basically everybody. Can you describe for the kind of the layman why that team is so hard to score against? And then two, a little bit less layman, how do you attack that defense? Because offensively, they score some. You know, it's an efficient offense. They're not trying to beat you to 90. They're just trying to score more points than you. It's defensively, like even Florida, as good as they were, they had a hard time getting the ball in the basket. So from a layman's terms, why are they so good at defense? And then two is, how do you schematically attack that team? Because to me, it's a black box. I don't know how you get the ball in the hoop.
Yeah, I have no clue how to score against them. As you can tell, the last 2 years that we played against them, that it hadn't been close. And but defensively, they're first of all they're really good individual defenders, right? They can guard their yard, and so it's hard to beat when any of their guys one-on-one. And then they do a great job with their ball screen coverage, right? They're going to put two on the ball. Their hedge is going to be very aggressive, and then they're going to tag the roller, and they're going to make the guard have to try and throw a skip pass across court and with air on it, and then they do a great job of closing out and then closing down. And so because they can guard three different ball screen actions in a possession and take that away, that makes it hard. And you're gonna have to rise up and make shots on them. You know, I thought when we beat them the year we won the national championship in the Final Four, we just played a lot of one-on-one basketball, right? It was like, hey, you beat this dude off the bounce, and and then Matt Meyer being a stretch four. Mm-hmm. That caused problems for them there. So that's y'all have a Matt Meyer, and so that's going to cause them some problems because you can't hedge that pick and pop the way they do and still rotate. You'll run out of men at some point in time. But that's like and so much of basketball is ball screen coverage. Now Florida wins that game because Walter Clayton was able to beat that dude one-on-one. Right down the lane line, and then go finish it. If they didn't, they got it on the backside. And Texas Tech beat them at Texas Tech because they were able to win that one-on-one battle down the seam and then capitalize on the backside. And so, it's hard, man. It's hard. And Coach Sampson, and especially the fact that he's able to bring guys back. Mm-hmm. This year is going to be a little bit different because he's got some new guys and not as many guys coming back. And so we'll see. But the fact when you can bring so many guys back that understand what you want to do defensively and what the culture is about and how you're going to perform, that's what made them so good.
I'm going to make a prediction now that my guy Marcus Johnson's going to have a big game against them. Stretch four, kind of a unique. I would say positionless guy, but I think he's going to have a good game versus Houston. Jeff, I've got one more question for him. I'm not sure if you have anything else.
No, I mean, this has just been fun. As you can tell, so I was the slow-footed running back. And so the only way that I could get on the field is I had to know what everybody was doing before they knew what they were doing. So I don't know as much about basketball, so I like getting into the weeds and stuff that I don't know about and just learning about it. This is, I don't know, I just ask more thought.
So what year, Jeff, what years did you play?
09 to 13.
Okay.
And I was there 08 to 2012. So when Iowa State beat Oklahoma State when they're number 2, that was my senior night.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was the guy that scored in double overtime for that.
Hey, man, that is awesome.
Yeah.
So like RG3, was that the RG3 years?
Oh, yeah. That was the RG3 years. So it was actually he overlapped towards the end of our time, I think, because he was a little bit older than... He was a little bit your class. So
he's in my class.
I think against Baylor, I was 2-2. I think we beat Nick Florence. We beat him one year before that, but we got boat raced boat raced. We got beat 70-6, I think, 76 against Baylor in 2013. So that was a non-game. But yes, the RG3 years were there.
And maybe the best part about that game is John Walters, Iowa State's play-by-play guy. Iowa State, we had scored like late in the game, and he's like, all right, this can't get much worse for us. And there was, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They took that kickoff back for a touchdown after we had just scored.
It's the most. You talk about getting out-rebounded 51 or out-rebounding a team 51-19, where that's the type of game where you just we're down by 41 in the middle of the third quarter. Let's just wrap this up. Like we've had enough of it.
Oh man.
So I've enjoyed this as well too, Coach. The last question I've got for you is there any final words that you'd like to share with Iowa State fans? I've really enjoyed this, and I hope that Iowa State fans listen to this and have a better appreciation for you as well too. But if you had any closing words you'd like to share with Iowa State fans?
I appreciated the enthusiasm they had for us last year. When I walked in the gym, the greatest part about it, Ella, is when I walked out and the booth started, I started smiling. But then TJ came walking out, so then they had to cut the booth short so they could cheer for him. So I'm gonna make sure that I come walking out just right before TJ, so they can't boo me as loud this year. But man, you guys are great. For real. I want to kick y'all's butt every time we play, but when we're not playing each other, I'm an Iowa State fan. I know especially once you get to conference, the NCAA tournament, really rooting for you guys. And TJ does a great job, and love the environment, and just really appreciate you guys having me on.
No, we appreciate you joining us too. Thank you so much. And Jeff, you got anything else for him?
No, I just anytime we have somebody, and I'll tell this to Fitz too. Of all the schools, it feels like there's 3 that, to me, maybe 4. There's Iowa State, land-grant institution, always seems to be in the shadow and doesn't deserve to be in the shadow of their, quote, big brother until they kick that big brother's ass. So It's Iowa State, it's Kansas State, it's Texas Tech. Those schools, and Oklahoma State, those schools feel like they're the most siblings out of the whole bunch. So anytime you are matched up with them, you just want to, like you said, you want to beat them so bad, just like it's your brother. Like, I don't want to lose to my brother in one-on-one in the basketball hoop in the front yard. Yep. But as soon as anybody else tries to pick on that brother, you're like, no. I can pick on him. You don't. Yes. So it feels like Kansas State, Iowa State, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, those 4 feel like they're all siblings. So it's just, like I said, it's fun to have some Kansas State folks on. I gotta say that there's a familial love between those 2 universities.
I agree 100%.
So last question I do want to ask you, Coach, is after games, you get up in the stands with the fans and you dance with them. Tell me about that. Where did that come from? What made you want to do that?
Well, I told y'all before I got here, I always thought the students here were the best. I mean, they were like right there, center court, and I mean, it was just awesome. And my kids are both students here, and and so I just. What makes college basketball great is the environment that the students bring to it, and I just want them to know how much I appreciate them doing the. It's not the same. We don't have a home court advantage without our students. Yep. It's just not the same, and the fact that they take the time, to come to games, show up early, and just all the energy that they bring to it. I want them to know that they are a part of our program. They have a great deal to do with us winning basketball games, and that I appreciate them.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing that. You don't see that from coaches, so it's nice to see that you give back to them and almost show like you're one of them that you do appreciate all the support they give to you. So we thank you again, Coach. Thank you for your time and best of luck this year.
Hey, thanks a lot, fellas. God bless.
Thank you. You as well. And that was Kansas State's men's basketball head coach, Jerome Tang. That was a more fun interview than I was anticipating, Jeff, and that was the type of interview that I had hoped it would be.
Exactly, and I think we've used the term. I feel like the dingus that we've said of like don't be a dingus, and just kind of use that as like a transition point when we were talking about Kansas State, and we didn't ask specifically about like the Tang-gate thing for those fans that are like mad about it. But when you're prior to recording, you were having a conversation. This guy does feel like he's a human, and I think we'll eventually every once in a while get caught up in moments that doesn't need to get caught up in. But like when you give him the chance to actually have a conversation, he's a really engaging guy. So we didn't want to like, this is not a 60 minutes interview where you're trying to like pin down, you know, the Nixon administration for the Watergate tapes. This is not that. So it's just trying to make sure that like, I don't know, that he felt comfortable. And we gave him plenty of opportunities to just talk about Iowa State fans. And he did acknowledge the booze. So like recognizing that he was part of that. So I hope that the fans receive it in the way that we did, which was an enjoyable conversation with somebody who does have a lot of sharp points, kind of corny sometimes, but otherwise, I don't know, that, like I said, I enjoyed that. And I could talk, like when he's talking about the Houston thing, like I love the weeds of sports. So I don't know, I thought it was really fun.
Yeah, no, I did too. And you know what? For as much flack as fans give him, if you take a step back... Us included. Yeah. And if you take a step back and just look at all the incidents, so the Tang gate where he thought someone was recording the huddles, he had no idea what was going on. You know, he doesn't know... He doesn't have his phone out in Hilton, so he doesn't know that reception there sucks. When you take a step back and really think about it, it's pretty illogical, yeah. But he also doesn't know that I think it was a fan who was like the mom or parent of the dance team. The dance team was right behind the huddle. So you look at that. I think overall, if you take a step back and look away from his goofiness and take off the glasses of, thinking, this guy's a clown, and you just think of like put yourself in his shoes, he means well. You know, at the end of the day, he means well.
Just a little bit of an odd duck every once in a while. But again, just really engaging conversation. I thought it was fun.
I did too.
I think it's a good one to end on.
And that's what I was going to say too. You know, I'm obviously, I've expressed this before. I'm sad that Kickin' It's coming to an end. I wasn't sure if we're going to get him on. I sent out a tweet. He didn't respond to it, but Tim Fitzgerald, friend of the program, he texted me and said, "Hey, if you want Jerome to come on, I'll ask him." I'm thinking, sure, you know what the hell, let's ask him. He gave me Tang's number. I shot him a text. He didn't respond. Something, okay, it's Fitz, you know, is he setting me up here?
Getting
catfish. Text him again. I was like, "Hey, coach, you know, try one more time. If it doesn't work, like I get it. Like you're a busy guy." He responded to me with his SID's information, and they were able to set it up. And even then, coming on the show, the SID said they had issues getting the link. So I'm thinking, all right, are we getting catfish right here? Is Fitz setting us up? So he jumped on though.
When the camera turns on, it's just gonna be one dude flipping a big middle finger. It wasn't. It actually was Jerome Tang.
Yeah, no. So that was. I hope that the listeners enjoy this episode. And I hate to say it, but I do wish him well outside of playing Iowa State. He's got a really unique roster that he's built. You know, he's got like he brought in like the number 1 or 2 scorer in the country last year. PJ Haggerty from Memphis. Marcus Johnson, the dude that I talked about, he's from Bowling Green. He's kind of like got a Niang type game. So he's got an interesting roster. But yeah, this unfortunately is the final episode of Kickin' It. It's been a lot of fun. I'm not going anywhere as far as like I'll still be in Des Moines. I'll still be at games. So if anybody sees me, say hey. For anybody who doesn't know, you know, like I said, I've got something going on in my personal life. I accepted the position to be the president of Iowa State. So Winnie Winterstein's out, Grant Mahoney's in. So I'm just kidding. I'm not. That'd be sweet, but that's not what I'm doing.
I feel like it'd be a bad hire. I feel like the board of trustees would really. I mean, no offense. I think you'd be awful at that job.
My first order would be what, Jeff?
Oh,
to bring back Visha. Helmut Carby number 2.
Helmut Carby. Okay.
Helmut Carby, Visha's number 1, Helmut Carby number 2, number 3 would be the blimp, both at football games and in the basketball arena.
Oh, the RC blimp.
Yep. So those are my first 3 orders that I would, if I were to become president. So, I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
And I feel like this is still a thing that at some point down the road, getting as a guest host or as just kind of guest back, like you're not going to be in the wilderness gone forever.
I'm actually going off the grid for 8 years, going to live in the wilderness, completely unplugged.
You're still not going to be able to grow a mustache or a beard.
Literally shitting in the woods. See some scruff.
Little beard stubble.
It's like 6 days. You got anything else?
No. This is it's been fun. I'm glad we got to do it because if nothing else, you get to talk to one of your buddies every week. So that if nothing else has been fun.
Talking sports. I mean, who doesn't like talking sports? And
sports.
I can't believe anybody actually cared to listen to us, Jeff. I'm being honest. You know, I'm kind of a dingbat sometimes, so I'm surprised anybody really listened to us. But hey, I think some people like this, which I can appreciate. So one final time, I will thank our loyal listeners for being loyal listeners. tune into Jeff and Jake. I believe they're going to take over the show closer to football season, so make sure you give them a listen too. I've got no doubts it's going to be another great podcast. And one final time, I want to remember everyone to please adopt. Don't shop.